What we do at this organization, our main focus is immigration legal services, which we provide to African and Afro-Caribbean immigrants. And I really want to be very specific when I say African. When I say African, I think about all the children of Africa. Would it be white Arabs? Would it be black people? Or would it be even white people, from South Africa? And of course, all the racial blendings, in between. And of course, our brothers and sisters, from the Caribbean, we speak here about Haitians, Jamaicans, people from Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts, you name it. So this is our main focus. And in terms of the services that we're providing, there's been an evolution over the years. When we first started, we're just doing very basic applications, right? Like a work permit application or a green card application. We took asylum cases, but we didn't have an internal staff, and we didn't have also the accreditation of the Department of Justice. So what we did back then, we had this great idea of trading with some private organizations or trading with other non-profits that charged. So what we did is that we provided the clerical support. So basically preparing the entire case, putting all the paperwork together. And then finally we would ask an attorney, immigration attorney, to review, the file. And then so we help them, not to deal with the paperwork and just come only at the end. And in exchange for that, so an attorney who wanted to charge maybe $2,500, we would ask the person to charge maybe $1,500. So it was for us, a way of approaching, how we can help, our community members really go for asylum applications. That we are immigrants, we are foreigners, all right. So when we arrive here, we don't speak the language, we don't know the culture. So we really need to work hard, to adjust, to a new culture, learn the language, put ourselves, for school, and make ourselves, marketable, for the labor market, and etc., etc. So A.A.N has found itself, even though we don't have any funding for that, being the main African organization in Northern California, we have found ourselves, to stretch our resources. And what do I mean by that? It means that beyond the legal services, we try to continue providing support. Here's the picture. You finish helping someone, right? Maybe it was an asylum case, you work with the person maybe over 1 year or 2 years, and then they get granted asylum. Then I'm going to walk away, they turn around and say, oh, now I need a job. Oh, now I need a place to stay. Oh, now I need to go to school. Oh, now I need, maybe to go to some kind of hospital, because people don't know how to navigate the health system, the healthcare system in the US. So we found ourselves taking people to hospitals, taking people to city college, taking people to city agencies, for social services, etc., etc. Immigration under Donald Trump, and that's been changing a lot of things. So let me give you maybe 3 or 4 of them. Asylum is a big thing. I was telling you about cultural competency, why it is important, for our community members to be taken care of by people who understand the culture and in such a way that they will understand their story, and then based on that, apply for asylum. We serve everybody from across the continent, right? So if you sit around, you're going to see people from Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, you name it, and all the way down to South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc., etc. People used to wait about 2 years or more before getting granted, before even seeing an asylum officer, because the caseloads were so huge. And the rule is that once you apply for asylum, for an affirmative asylum case, after 150 days, after your application was received, while you're waiting, after 150 days, you are allowed to apply for a work permit. And they have to renew it until you see an asylum officer and then they make a decision on your case. 2 years or more of wait, taken down to 21 days. This is huge. Now, people don't have enough time to prepare their cases. community-based organizations are overwhelmed because asylum is a very, very serious process, right? You need to write your story, you need to gather all kind of evidence, and you need to go for psych evaluation, say psychology to evaluate your trauma, etc. And it's all these things that we put together and make a package which constitute the asylum application. Now within 21 days, what can you do? Not much. And let alone that well, the way we're deciding on asylum cases now is very questionable. Cases of violence do not constitute a ground for asylum unless you can prove, particularly concerning violence, unless you can prove that this violence was committed by your government. But if you're being circumcised as a woman, this is not from the government, right? But does it make you less a victim? No, you're still a victim, right? So, and domestic violence, gang violence and all those things, they say this doesn't count. But if you look at asylum cases, I would say at least 70% of asylum cases are based on violence, right? Now, if you cut that off, there's not much left, for these people. So this is the second thing. So 21 days, now, they have really restricted, the ground for people to apply for asylum. And then, the third one, it used to be that when you applied for something with immigration services, if for whatever reason your application was not, complete, then they will return it to you and ask you, okay, and give you some instructions and tell you, what was wrong, and then so that you can take care of all these things and resend them your application. And sometimes they will go as far as, sending you an intent to deny. They don't deny, they even say, hey, if you don't take care of this thing or this thing, we're gonna deny you. So there was a whole process. But guess what? No more of that. You fill out your form, you make any mistakes, the USCIS officer says this form is not right, no more second chance. Instead, what are we doing? The asylum officer is going to issue a notice to appear, which corresponds to the acronym NTA. So the NTA is basically a document that they give you, telling you, hey, you got to see a judge. We send you to the immigration court. But the problem with the NTA is that, as soon as it is issued, it starts a deportation process. Now that they announced that as of maybe September, I can't remember the month, they're opening a new office in Southern California, and whose job is going to essentially be to review how people got naturalized and then find some things that were not right and then basically denaturalize people. So this is scary. This is extremely scary because behind that you can hide your racism, you can hide your xenophobia. Because what can tell me on which ground they're going to choose the cases that they're going to review? On what ground? What is the logic behind that? And when you see something that vague, this is like an open door for any kind of abuse. We strongly believe that we can make a change by going one by one. Right. Of course, the ideal situation would be to make a change for everybody at a time, but that's not the way it works. But we simply believe that every case that we solve, can make a change for this person and for the numerous dependencies that they have back home, or even for the families, that are here, with them.